Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, JC Soto. Today, we have a writer, an author, a coach, an empowerment coach, and a marketing strategist. And she's going to help us understand and the topic of working with the impostor syndrome, how to be more visible and make more money out there. So welcome to the show, Marta.
Thank you so much for having me, JC. I'm excited to chat.
And before we get going, I want to let everybody know her company is Marta Spirk Coaching. So again, welcome to the show, Marta.
Thank you. Excited.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little more about what your coaching is about and how you help your clients?
Yes. So I focus on empowering and specifically women entrepreneurs to stop hiding, to really show their personality, to get more vulnerable with their audience so that they connect more authentically and build relationships and increase sales. But the basis and the foundation of everything is that personal growth, the increasing of self-confidence. But what I have found is that self-confidence doesn't just increase with us doing the personal growth work, reading the books, journaling, and all that stuff. It comes with action. So we have to put ourselves out there and feel the fear, do it anyway. And then we will notice the confidence increasing. And I feel like so many women and so many entrepreneurs kind of sit around in the analysis paralysis and expect the confidence to come first, but it does not happen like that. You have to take those steps. You have to take the risks and you will see the fruits of it.
That's right. So the confidence comes from taking action.
Yes, it does.
But there's a myth that says that you read the books and you get confidence and then you do the action.
Right.
Yeah. So what other myths are there that you find that people bring to you when they are, running their business?
I think one of the biggest ones too is oftentimes we hear a lot about limiting beliefs. And we start thinking that the way we are is keeping us from moving forward. So people that are maybe introverted or that have struggled with something in the past, with a client or even in their personal lives, we allow those things to kind of define us. And we kind of start comparing with other entrepreneurs and say, I could not do that because, or we create reasons/excuses to say that somebody else is more advanced because they have an upper hand somehow. And what I have learned in my journey is that the more I understand myself, the more I see how different and how unique I am and how I should be leveraging that instead of thinking that, oh, this is my weakness, so I can't do it this way. Instead, look at my weaknesses as my strengths and see how I can leverage the way I am. Instead of wanting to change who I am, it's really become more of who I am. And that's what's going to bring me success. And oftentimes in this space, especially the online space, we compare ourselves, and we usually compare our entire lives with somebody's one day that they say, I made so much money, or I signed up a client. And I used to be in that trap. And sometimes it's still hard. And I think that's another myth, to think that once you overcome some kind of fear or some kind of limiting belief or whatever, that those things are never going to poke their heads back in. And they really are. It's an ongoing journey, and some things are going to be triggering for you forever. They're always going to be coming back, but it's a matter of how you handle it. Your reaction changes, right? The triggers may not change. The weaknesses may not change, but it's really how you see things. It's changing your perspective more than anything, more than changing yourself. It's changing your perspective about situations and about yourself.
That's right. And there's a lot of comparison. Like you said, sometimes just a snapshot of that person that posts something wonderful online. Yep. And we tend to analyze ourselves. And we usually end up getting down and getting depressed because we seem like we're not there yet. And that causes fears, right? The paralysis, not wanting to do anything. What other fears do they bring along?
Well, I think that's one of the biggest ones is, good for you, I could not do that, right? Or at times it's the opposite. I usually say there's like the superiority complex or inferiority complex. You look at people and you say, I could never do that. Or you think, I'm so much better than them, but I'm not making the money, or people are not wanting to work with me. And it's really an understanding that there is no one like you. And it's hard because we grow up, and I see this with my kids because I have triplets. So they're all the same age, but they're so different. And it's clear to see that even though they were born the same day to the same parents, growing up in the same conditions, they're very, very different. And it's just the greatest proof for me that the same is for all of us in so many other capacities, because we were born to different families in different countries, right? With different backgrounds. And so what I have learned is that it's a lack of self-awareness. Really, that's what it is. When you are thinking that you could never do what somebody else does, or that you're better, and how are they doing better, you are not self-aware enough to understand that you're not leveraging who you are. You're still caught up in looking at others. And back to my point I was trying to make is that we grow up and we lose who we were initially, that essence that I see in my 5-year-olds. This is something that, we start taking on so much baggage with time, and we lose that essence because we start thinking, well, to fit in, I need to change a little bit. And we're constantly checking to see, how am I doing? Are people smiling? Are they, turning their head? Are they falling asleep when I'm talking, And we're constantly checking our performance based on people's reactions. Now, obviously, we're social human beings. We have to take social cues. But a lot of it gets really turned all the way upside down into, we spend the majority of our adult life running away from who we are. And I believe that personal growth, and especially entrepreneurship, and I would add in motherhood in my case too, it forces you to go back to be like, okay, so who are you? What is your purpose? What are the things that you were born with that nobody told you needed to become a doctor, or that you needed to go play some sport? You had that thing. And the more you are able to go back to those moments, the more you will see that you have been following some of those steps, even if unaware and subconsciously, you have been kind of following the dreams, following the passion. Everything is interconnected, and everything has contributed to where you are now. So now, once you gain that awareness, you can be more intentional about what you do in the future, keeping in mind what you have maybe discovered or rediscovered about your mission, your passion, and the essence.
That's right. That essence, that innocence that we have when nobody's has bombarded us with all these different messages that start to confuse us, because we get confused, and
exactly.
And then we don't know how to act, how to react, how to behave. And sometimes we can't even decide what we want out of life, because we have commercials telling you, well, you should have this type of car, or you have this much money in the bank. But we start getting really confused. We get paralyzed,
right?
And trying to figure out how to move forward. And that comes with that triggers the imposter syndrome when you finally decide to do something about it, right?
It does. And there's a lot of labeling too that we accept. And I see this even with my kids. It's been the most amazing journey to get into entrepreneurship while raising 3 kids at the same time, with them being so little, because I think back to the things that really scarred and marked me as I was growing up, like people telling me, don't be so loud, or we hear these things when we're growing up, right? Or you're too quiet, say something, use your words, because these are things that I'm kind of doing with my kids. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to do to them what my parents did to me. But here's the thing, you can't 100% control how anyone's going to take any of the information. And now I see, looking back at my childhood, there were several things that my parents did that I truly believe now as a parent myself, it wasn't intentionally bad. The opposite. They were doing it because that's the best way they knew how. And same goes for me right now. Maybe sometime in the future, one of my kids are going to say, you said that and it really hurt me. And it was not my intention. And so that's how I know that it's, even if it's not the intention, it's how we take it. And now it's our responsibility as grownups to seek our truth. So even if people your entire life told you would amount to nothing, or that you could not do something, or that you were too loud, be quiet, is that really your truth? And that's one of the things that I have been realizing, that the things that I have heard they have stopped me in some capacity, but they also helped me see how my behavior back then is so aligned with what I do now. So it's been happening from forever, of me talking all the time, of me always being loud, of me singing. The reason why I do what I do now as an entrepreneur, like, it came from there. And it's so important to really pay attention to those labels and understand, did this really come from me, or was it from someone else that said that and I took it to heart as my truth?
Yeah,
and really
right.
defining what your truths are.
Yeah, just take that. I remember when I was growing up in Puerto Rico and salsa music was all over the place. And I remember my mom telling us, you sound like crazy people, screaming and talking so loud and singing. And you're right. It's not the intent to hurt us. It's kind of to help us. But sometimes the way that it comes to us in that moment, we don't have the capacity at that age to distinguish one from the other.
Exactly.
And it makes it really tough. Now, do you have an example of someone that you helped, that you help them break through that barrier of the imposter syndrome and be more confident and have that drive again to get going?
Yes. In fact, I have several clients that have said, and I have noticed that lots of people gravitate towards me because I am this Energizer bunny, and I'm so outspoken, and I have no problem talking about things and making a fool of myself if needed. I'm willing to try anything. And then to realize, just like what I was saying, taking action, to realize, no, this is not what I want to do, or this doesn't work. But at least I tried to have that information instead of letting fear stop me. And so I have several examples, but one of the ones that I really, really love, especially with the shyer clients, because that's when you see, wow, the huge transformation. I had a triplet mom, also a fellow triplet mom that I worked with a couple years ago. And she was wanting to get into selling some of her art. So she's an amazing sketch artist, and she was doing it out of a hobby and not really thinking that that could be a business or that somebody would even want to sell it. And I encouraged her to start posting pictures and to start selling herself and showing more of her personality. And I feel like this is the biggest struggle, is that we don't want to show ourselves. We want to show the product, the service, but people don't buy products and services for the most part. They buy into you. They buy into your personality, into the rapport that they build. And especially with those that tend to be shyer, it's kind of hard to take that step. And so that was one of the things that I worked on with her. And she went on to create her Instagram account and to selling custom stuff and doing several different kinds of print work as well. And that's one of the clients I'm super proud of, because not only is she also a triplet mom, so I understand the struggle, you're got enough on your plate as it is, and then start a business and then work on that on your spare time. But she did it. She went for it, and she's had great success. And so that's one of the ones I'm super proud of.
You have to work with your children. And then on top of that, you have to work on yourself.
Yeah.
And then when you're working on something that has been there for so long, mm-hmm. and that's the way you've been operating for so long, that's a real challenge.
It is, because it's that pattern interrupt, the change in what you're doing. And in a lot of ways, becoming a parent is that. And I think, again, going back to self-awareness, when we encounter a difficult situation, it's almost like, I've never been here before, I don't know what to do. But if you really took the time to go back to other hard situations in your life, you will see that we never know what to do. When it's super hard situation, you learn at the moment. And this is one of the things that people always tell me, oh, God gave you triplets because he knew I couldn't handle it. Well, do you think I thought I could handle it? You know what I mean? Like, we do what we can. I can't just ignore the fact that there are 3 kids in my household. I have to do what I have to do. And this is what we need to do every time we encounter a challenge. Or think about pandemic. No one was prepared for this, and we had to do what we had to do. And so just keeping that in mind, and especially looking into your past to encourage yourself, because I think lots of people struggle with the whole concept of, let's look into your childhood, like what we're saying, because there may be lots of wounds and lots of things that they don't even want to revisit. But I believe revisiting is important, not with the goal of dwelling in it, but really to seeing the good of it, because that's where gratitude comes from, and pride as well for yourself, for the things you've accomplished. And also thinking, physiologically, your brain doesn't know if this is happening right now or if you're just revisiting a memory, because it's incredible how you can revisit a memory, whether good or bad, and you can start feeling the feelings right away. It's almost like you're there, right? You remember the sounds, the smells. Our brains are amazing.
Yeah.
So why not take advantage of that to revisit the good stuff?
Exactly.
Right? And to remember, oh my gosh, I felt like I was not going to survive this challenge. And here I am. So if you're facing a challenge right now, you can take comfort in knowing I've survived something that looked like it was the worst. This looks bad too, but I got this.
And you're right. I'm a Silva mind instructor. I teach mind training. And one of the techniques that we teach is called the ideal place of relaxation. Okay. And it's a place that you go to when you need to reset.
Yeah.
Like go back and re-empower yourself at that time that you felt invincible. Mm-hmm. It's like you said, the brain is amazing if you take charge of that brain and you direct it, you guide it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's been proven over and over again that we don't even tap into, I don't know the percentage, but the majority of what our brain has to offer. Yeah. We don't tap into, we don't know, nobody knows. And it's been years of studies. And so there's something there. And I believe that we need to really take the time to take advantage of it.
So let me ask you, what was the spark that got you started coaching people?
So it really was motherhood. So the a little bit of the story is I'm originally from Brazil. I married my American husband. We moved to the US and we lived here for 3 years. And then my parents convinced us to go try it out in Brazil. And I had my babies in Brazil. So it was a lot of back and forth and rediscovering. And I have a background as a teacher and translator and interpreter. So that's my official career path, has always been with languages. But with the teaching vein, it's really my passion to see people understanding something, because I figured out a way of imparting that knowledge. And after we had the kids, we decided to move back to the US. And it was a lot to process, so many changes, especially because of not having family around. And my babies were 9 months old when I decided to start something for myself, because I saw how taxing it was on my emotions and really in my identity, going from 0 to 3 and having this reality of living in a different country. Granted, I already knew what it was like. And when I actually started with network marketing at the time. So it's like the glorified business for stay-at-home moms. And I really fell in love with the world of personal development. And I knew that's what I wanted to get into. I didn't want to sell anybody else's products. I didn't want to market any of that stuff. I wanted to help women with their mindset. And a lot of it too, because that's what I needed. So I always say I started coaching not out of the goodness of my heart. I started coaching because I needed it myself. And it's a great way to build accountability when you're helping somebody else with something that you need to, even if you're just a couple steps ahead, right? And so it really started with this responsibility and the burden of what am I passing on to 3 kids at the same time? I don't get a do-over. I don't plan on having any more kids. So what am I going to be doing if I'm doing it 3 at the same time? And I understood early on that I needed to be taking care of myself, that if I was going to be teaching them anything, it would be through my actions, not my words. So what am I modeling to them? And then even thinking back into my childhood and all the things that I would like to do differently in my turn, as a parent, I understood that it had to start with me. And another big part of it too, I want to add this on because people always are like, how do you survive when you have triplets? How did you do the baby stage? And I attribute a lot of that as well to me hiring a sleep consultant and learning how I am in charge of teaching them life, essentially, until they go elsewhere. And even starting with sleeping, that I was the one in charge of teaching them, now is the time. I'm not going to wait until they're sleepy, because how would you do that with 3 babies? It's easy for a singleton to say, I'll let my child tell me when they're tired, which then I understood it doesn't work like that. You need to tell them now it's time, whether you're tired or not, because they are going to be anyways. And I started seeing how in control and in charge I am more than I thought I was, not only with kids, but in life. And so, wow, if I'm responsible for what's happening in my life, it's not just accident, then I better be more intentional with what I do.
We decide whether we take charge or we let life control us. So
exactly.
It's up to us. So going back to your childhood, I know you had some lessons when you were growing up. We already talked about your parents.
Yes.
So what did you learn back then that you still apply to your business today?
So one of the things that's been coming up a lot for me, and also because I've been seeing some of my behavior in my kids, that's what's been so fascinating and kind of like split into three. Some grabbed some characteristics of each parent. And one of my sons is extremely stubborn. He hates losing and he wants things to be done a certain way. And he's like full on tantrum when he loses. And that's one of the things. He's 5.
Oh, he's 5.
Yeah. So, and I see myself a lot in that. I remember being a child, I was the youngest, and a lot of it, I think, has to do with the fact that I was the youngest. It's like I was trying to find the spotlight because there was somebody there already. And I remember my mom usually would say that my sister became more withdrawn after I was born because she was the only child. And so I heard that a lot. And to me, it was like, I need to make sure I save my spot and that I have my space here. And with that came me being so outspoken and all of that. And I remember having several instances where it was really hard for me to take, failure and being reprimanded by making a mistake. I hated making mistakes. And even to this day, it's still something that I work on, and taking criticism and not taking things personally. And that's a part of the work that I do too in helping women is you're going to have to, if you put yourself out there, you're putting yourself out there to haters, you're putting yourself out there to criticism. So, and to rejection and to no's. I mean, it's the nature of the beast. And definitely something that has been hard for me, I think, especially because of how it was hard for me so many years ago. But I've been seeing more and more to not see failure as a bad thing, to actually see failure as an indication of growth. Because if I hadn't tried it, then I wouldn't have even been able to fail. So that's amazing that I actually tried. And now I'm a step closer than I was to success, whatever that may.
You're like me. I see failure as feedback. I don't call it
exactly
failure. It's feedback. And I look at sometimes stinks and sometimes it's tough to look at what you did. Mm-hmm. But, it gives you a baseline to start from again.
Exactly.
And like you said, once you're online, you're like a target, it's just like people are looking for something to throw at you.
Yeah. Yes. And it's going to happen even if you're the nicest person. And that's another thing that lots of people struggle with is that you want to please everyone. You want to help everybody. And if you really are serious about it, soon enough, you're going to notice it doesn't work, because regardless of your intentions, going back to the intentions, everyone takes it their own way. Everyone interprets it their wrong way. So focus on what you can control. And what you can control are your actions, your thoughts, right? So yeah, that's definitely something that I've learned as a child, but that I've learned even more throughout life. And I think as a coach, as a coach and as an entrepreneur, it's like if you can't handle criticism and if you can't handle rejection, this is not the place for you.
No, this is not the business or the platform for you, for sure. No. So if people want to contact you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can find me all across social media as Marta Spirk. My website is martaspirk.com, and I have a podcast called the Empowered Woman Podcast as well. And just come and find me and we'll connect.
Do you have some kind of gift that people can get from you and get to learn more from you or about you? Yes.
Yeah, so I have a free masterclass where I outline my process for content creation, which has a lot to do with, gaining the confidence by taking action and putting your message out there, showing your face, showing your personality, connecting with your audience. So it's called the Get Seen, Gain Trust, and Get Paid Masterclass. And you can find that on my homepage on the website as well. You can register and you'll receive the video and you can take notes and start creating amazing content to connect with your audience.
To my audience, all her links are going to be just below the recording. Marta, thank you. I know you're a busy lady. I've seen you online. Thank you for taking the time to come and educate us and spend some time with us today.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate your time.
Okay. Until next time, this is JC Soto with Online Media 360. Bye now.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.